welcome to the Filmmaker's Playbook. My name is Jason Branagan and this is a podcast all about filmmaking. On today's show, I talk to Script Supervisor and emerging producer Carley Armstrong. Carley's credits as a Script Supervisor include Slow Horses, Boiling Point, Brassic, The Red King, Ferrari and more. She is a BAFTA Connect Producer, an RTS-nominated Rising Star producer and an alumnus of the BFI's Creative Producer Lab. In our conversation, we discussed the role of the Script Supervisor from prep to production, how Carley became a Script Supervisor, her top tips for aspiring Script Supers, the foundations of freelancing, building her own company and building a career as a writer, producer and director. I hope you enjoy today's episode. Thank you for listening. Carley Armstrong, thank you for joining me. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really looking forward to talking to you about script supervising, writing, producing, directing, and all of the stuff.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot. I've been really busy, so it's been great.
Busy is good. You wear many hats.
Yeah.
What I would love to start with is the role of being a script supervisor. And I would love if you were willing to talk to me about life as a script supervisor and what that job actually entails.
Yeah. So being a script supervisor is a pretty intense role because you have to kind of be on the ball all the time, managing various different departments and looking after the continuity and sort of overseeing the visual and verbal integrity of a shoot. So my job starts in prep when I receive the scripts, and then I will usually time the scripts to make sure that they will fit into the allocated time given from the broadcaster, depending on whether it's an hour long or 45 minutes or whatever. Then I'll usually time the scripts first, and then I will break down the scripts into sort of scene by scene of exactly what happens, where the characters are going, where they're coming from, what time of day it is, and what story day it is. And these are kind of all the components of continuity, essentially, to keep a track of what people are wearing, what people are doing, what props they need. And it's usually during this process that I might have quite a few questions that I run by the producers and the script editor and the director to say, this person is in this scene, but then the next time we see them is in this scene, but it's straight after and there's not enough time for them to have gotten there and stuff. And so the script supervisor can have some influence on the amendments before the shooting scripts were coming out. So it's like a sort of little private detective for a script. So you kind of you sort of unpick the logistics of the writing that often some types of writers might not be thinking about because they're just thinking about the creativity, and we're thinking about how we're going to be shooting this. And so it's kind of a different way of looking at scripts, and a good role and a good starting ground to really understand what makes a good script. So I've been quite fortunate in having that experience and being able to be trusted to do that, as you say. And then once I've sort of broken the scripts down, I'll be there with the director for the page turn, talking about their vision and what they want. And my relationship with the director is really, really important. And they sort of will usually 9 times out of 10 request their script supervisor, which is really nice. So I sort of work alongside the director in just like advising and, listening, preparing for the shoot, which I will be sat with the director for the whole time. And then the shoot will start. I will be poised and ready for any continuity problems that might arise or any questions. The questions can come from the producers or, the HODs in the other departments, or any of the crew really can ask me a question regarding, would this person have their coat now? Would this person have their hat now? Or what do you think the lighting would be like now, because we're at this time of day and the episode's going to be broadcasted at this month, so do you think that I'll get away with this lighting? So yeah, I'm sort of kind of advising everyone on the continuity throughout the whole process, whilst also obviously being there for the actors and listening to the dialogue to ensure that the dialogue makes sense and they're saying things in a way in which it doesn't change the context of the meaning of the words. And you kind of have to, it depends on the tone of the project. You kind of have to like be ready to give notes to the actors and say, oh, I think this should be said like this. Sometimes you might run, if it's a big production, you might have to run that through the director first and say, are you happy with this? And they'll tell you. But then other productions, the director's too busy. So you will kind of liaise with the producer. And the producer, 9 times out of 10, will be on set with you and the director. And you sort of work together as like a trio at the monitor, which is really nice because I've been exposed to so many conversations and so many creative decisions, and I can suggest shots to the director, what I think they might need, because obviously as a script supervisor you need to know how things cut together and if you've got all the coverage, because whilst you're doing this and listening to the dialogue and watching the continuity, taking photographs, you're also making editorial notes. So you're keeping notes for the editor, which you'll send at the end of the day, and advising on how this is going to cut together. And that part of the job is the job that I love the most, because in me being able to do that, I can edit now and I know exactly what is going to be needed. And yeah, it's such an integral role on set, and a highly responsible one as well. And I feel like in all of my experiences on high-end drama and film, I've really been able to sort of use that in my filmmaking.
There is a bunch of things there I want to touch on.
Yeah.
But one thing that stands out is script supervisors have to see and be on top of so much stuff. It never ceases to amaze me, the ability to have this really broad perspective, but also really micro and really macro at the same time. It's incredible. I loved the way you described the kind of prep side of things as being almost like a private detective. It's a love thinking about it. I was going to ask you about timings.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a dark art. It's nearly impossible to get accurate timings, but some people can. I was wondering what your process is for actually timing scripts.
Yeah. So it is. It's a really difficult one. And it's sort of, there's a fine line between reading the script and just reading it as you feel like two people will have a conversation, and then actually how that will articulate on the screen. Usually I'll do 3 sets of timings and then sort of like find somewhere in the middle, because you just never know how things are going to be shot. But with experience and understanding like the tone and the rhythm of a show, which is different to how you would see it on a play, and you've got to keep the audience engaged and it's got to be snappy, but then at the same time, when it calls for it, that there might be longer scenes because of the emotion. So you have to understand the tone, the rhythm, the emotion of every single scene. And that sort of just comes really with experience and obviously understanding drama as well, which I did study at college and school and stuff, and did a bit of theatre. So I kind of understand how conversations are supposed to be and what the rhythm's supposed to be. So I usually start out with a read, of which will be sort of out loud and how I feel that the actors will be speaking the words. I'll usually watch something of those actors if I've not worked with them before, to see how they speak and if they deliver their dialogue fast or slow. And then I'll do a sort of long timing, which will include me actually acting out the parts and, getting up, opening doors, closing doors, and all of that. And then I'll sort of then do like a a middle timing, which could be me just sort of thinking, internalizing both of those timings and then kind of understanding how I feel it'll be cut. So it really is a dark art in the sense of knowing how actors will perform a scene. And then sometimes you could get there on the day and the director said, well, actually, I've been having some thoughts about this scene and it needs cutting and it needs this or it needs that. And it might change, but usually it's pretty spot on, or at least within 10 seconds of what it should be. And I feel like this is the best process in timing. And when I teach anybody script supervising, or I always tell them to do it like this because you get some really good results.
Okay. Yeah, again, very in-depth kind of process of trying to get to that number. And then as you go, are you getting kind of scene assemblies to get comparable timings so that you can start to readjust in case something comes in really short or really long, and you know then as you work through production?
Yeah, so each week the editorial assistants will send you out a spreadsheet of your timings, but equally as I'm going, I'll have what we call a daily progress report. And on this, I've been obviously timing the scenes during the day. And then my estimated timings that I was talking about that I do in prep, I'll have them alongside the timings that we're getting on the floor. And then we'll have like a variable plus and minus of what the difference is between each scene. And then that'll culminate into an overall timing. And we'll see where we're going, if we're above or below what we should be shooting. And then that will sort of like just give us the heads up of, you know, we're shooting too much, we're not shooting enough. I might have, or somebody might have underestimated the timing or overestimated the timing. And the progress report just enables all of the grown-ups to see exactly where we are and if we're on track. And then usually at the end of the week, once the editors started cutting the scenes, they will send out a spreadsheet with the edit timings, which my timings are always close to the edit timings, because when I'm timing as how I feel it will be cut in the edit. So I always get excited when the edit timings come through. And just on my last job, I screenshotted, because in 1 week I'd gotten the timing down to the second, and I sent it to the producer. I was like, that's pretty bang on. And she's like, well done. So yeah, I really do like getting the edit timings and seeing how far off I am.
In your experience, productions that you're working on, do your directors, let's say if you have a 45-minute broadcast time.
Yeah.
Personally, I would like to go in with more than 45 minutes so that you can play in the edit. Is that generally what you're seeing when you're working on shows as well? That, okay, we're TXing 48 minutes. I want 55 minutes in the edit.
Yeah, well, usually they'll say like it's like 4 to 5 minutes more to play around with in the edit, because I heard once that somebody didn't have a script supervisor on a big job in overseas, and the director ended up shooting way more than that was needed. And then when the actual finished product came out, like, they really had to cut some big scenes, and it really did affect, you know, the overall sort of flow of it. And, you know, when you're starting to cut things out, then, you know, you start affecting the story. So I think it is important to try and listen to the timings and not go over so much that you're going to force yourself to have to make some difficult decisions in the edit. And yeah, so I think 4 to 5 minutes is like a good sort of playing around time that you can give yourself. And usually that's what most directors do, give themselves like 5 minutes over to play around with, not intentionally, but, you know, sometimes it is hard to hit those targets when, you know, you have so many lovely shots that you want to get, and you want to tell a story in a way that you can, that's cinematic or thematic to what you're trying to say. And sometimes the time just doesn't allow for it.
Totally. And then schedules, if you have an opportunity to, if you're running over in terms of material and you can cut early doors, it's better to cut on paper, I suppose.
Yeah, it is, because obviously if we can make those cuts and amendments beforehand with the script editor and the producer, then it just sort of eases the schedule and leaves time for a more sort of relaxed filming day.
Yeah, and I guess then the narrative integrity stays as opposed to losing something big after the fact.
Yeah, definitely. So timings are definitely a really important role of a script supervisor, and I think understanding how that sort of affects everything of what we're shooting is important.
One of the things you mentioned previously as well, and I'm just coming back to it, I don't actually have a question on it. You mentioned that trio of producer, script supervisor, and director. And it's interesting because the more people I'm talking to for the podcast, this idea of triangles continues to appear in terms of some of their set relationships and how important these trios and triangles of departments are and how they all overlap as well.
Yeah.
But how then did you get into script supervising?
So I went to uni and did film production. I've always known that I wanted to work on set. I've always studied drama. It's always been a goal to just get there. I've not really worked in any other industry than this, so it's everything I've ever done. And I went to uni, and then when I graduated with first, and I got a job at the BBC in production. And it was in production, which I always encourage everyone to try and get a job either as a floor runner or as a production assistant or production runner, because it's a really good place for you to go when you leave uni, to just kind of give you an overview of what everyone does, what all the departments are, and to really sort of start understanding where you want to go in your career. So I started off in the production office, but whilst I was at uni, I was getting a lot of experience in sort of low budget feature films and, being a runner driver and making those contacts and networks and stuff. So then I went into the production office, and it was there that I was exposed to scripts and dealing with the amendments and things. But I never really wanted to be a script editor or go through that channel of, being in an office environment. I was desperate to get on set. That's where I wanted to be, and I knew that's where I was going to go. And I had a few friends who were script supervisors in terms of, being a production assistant and chatting to the script supervisors a lot, because I was obviously photocopying their notes and, helping them out and things. So yeah, I was exposed to the role very early on, and I kind of thought, I think that I would be quite good at that, because it's understanding scripts, it's understanding drama, and I'm going to be on set, but I still have the administrative stuff that I'm learning in production, so maybe I should give it a try. And then I sort of did some shadowing and just going out on sets with different script supervisors, and then thought, oh well, I'll go and do a course. So I paid, I think it might have been about $2,000 at the time, to go and do a course with a script supervisor in London called Avril Rowlands, who's she's done so much, and she's brilliant. She's probably in her 80s or something now, but she was so lovely, and I got some intense training with her, and she taught me essentially everything. But I think the real training ground is in actually doing it. So I'd went to various different places, Emmerdale, Coronation Street, and getting shadowing experience. And then one day when I was in the production office, the line producer, Alan Fairholm, it's his fault that I'm a script supervisor. And I always say, thanks, Alan, when I see him, because, he really did throw me in at the deep end, and they needed a script supervisor and for second unit. And he was like, well, Carley will do it. She's done the course. She's done this. So they literally just threw me out in second unit, because at the time there weren't many script supervisors in the Northeast, because there weren't many productions. So nobody was really wanting to train in that role. So I went out, I did second unit, and then I got the bug straight away, and I was like, right, I want to be on set. That's where I'm going. And I just started to pursue it from there. And then I went on to other jobs and did more second unit. And then I was sat next to Alan at this networking event, and I said, Alan, I said, will you create me a training program at the BBC to train me as a script supervisor? And he was like, that's a really good idea. So he created like this training opportunity for me, which was really bespoke. And they basically trained me for like 8 months working under other script supervisors whilst I was still being in production, but then going out and, getting the best of both worlds. And then after that, he started offering me blocks, and then that was it. I was away, and then I was away doing other things. I started out doing all the continuing dramas, and then just sort of worked my way up from doing children's continuing dramas to then doing sort of like low budget features, then doing dramas, then doing high-end dramas, and now doing high-end dramas and films. So I kind of obviously learned what I needed to learn, and then I've just continued to push myself.
I love that you had a champion in Alan. I think they're so important in this industry. I think everyone needs someone, and at all different levels of your career, I think there's huge importance in having mentors. When you were getting in and shadowing on some of these shows, how did those opportunities come about? Were you chasing them down by cold emailing, or were you leaning on some contacts you had from working in production? How did you get yourself in the door?
So that's one of my biggest skills. Like, I can get where the draft can't get. I can literally get in anywhere. So I just sort of, just like reaching out to people and just making contacts. And I don't know, I think there's a certain element of luck, and I'm a bit spiritual as well. And I do think like an element of it is sort of the universe. And I think I was always meant to do this. So things just come to me as well. It's really, once you're in there, you just attract things and just attract opportunities. And I can't even explain it. It's almost like I've been living in this, like, I don't know, like dream world for the last however many years. And it just seems to be happening all the time. And I just feel really grateful. It's just, it's amazing.
Brilliant. I love it. So where did the passion and the drive for film and television come from? Because you said you always knew you wanted to be in production. So was that driven by seeing theatre when you were younger, or a particular film? Where did it all stem from?
So I've always done drama, and I was sort of, doing amateur dramatics and stuff, and I was part of like the Northern Academy for Dramatic Art when I was a kid, and always putting on productions, writing my own scripts and stuff in my own, like from being really little. And I used to watch a lot of like behind the scenes VHS, how they used to have like a roll at the end where you could like on tape when you could watch stuff. So I would always watch some of that, and I was obsessed with Titanic when it came out. I think it was like 7, and I can remember seeing them like doing it in a swimming pool and all that, and I was like, oh my God, that looks sick. And so I've always kind of known, but then when you see like big American stuff like that, you just think, oh, like it's so far out of reach for someone from the Northeast, working class. I'm never going to be able to get there. And then I just started out on this journey of like, well, maybe I'll just do theatre then for a bit and just see who I meet and what I do and all of that. But always knowing that the end goal for me was working on films. And I kind of never gave up on the dream of drama, or I was always doing something, whether that was, it would always lead me back to the drama. And then I sort of went to college and did drama. And then I was like, you know what? Drama's not, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant course, but I really need to be understanding the sort of camera and the technical stuff. So when I went to uni, I actually studied film and TV production at Sunderland University, which is an amazing uni because all of the lecturers are, they've worked in the industry themselves, and they're just really knowledgeable, and they have like great opportunities. I'm actually going back to the uni to do some work with the students, so that's really really nice. And they've done so much for me in my career in terms of supporting me and rooting for me and stuff. So I am really grateful. So yeah, essentially that's where the drive come from, to working in films, just watching films and thinking, I want to be doing that.
Brilliant. What is the hardest part of being a script supervisor?
I think the hardest part of being a script supervisor is if you're working with people who are not very nice. Because, you know, when you're on a job that long, and if you're working with people, even though you have to be resilient, and if you are working with someone who's difficult, you just sort of have to get on with it, really. Unless you're being bullied, of course, and then that's different. Then you can obviously speak out. But yeah, I really feel like when you're on a job and there are, you know, personalities or difficult people, it just affects the mood and the morale of all of the crew. And ultimately, when you're working on something for like 3 to 6 months, you want to be able to have a nice time. So I do feel like the people that you're surrounded by are a huge factor in whether it makes the job hard or not. And obviously that just affects everybody's performance, really, if you're working with someone who isn't very nice. So yeah, I think my job as a script supervisor now, because I've done so much of it, it just comes to me naturally. And I wouldn't say that it's difficult for me unless, you know, it's really high pressured and I'm working lots of hours and there's a lot of stress. Then yes, then that can be really difficult. But I think script supervising is it's a brilliant job to be in, to be able to sort of see everything and get experience of the production as a whole.
So what's your favorite part of the job?
My favorite part of the job is working with the director and the producer and understanding what coverage we need and how it's all going to cut together. I always ask questions of, so you know that shot that you did then, will you cut that with this? And, you know, in being able to be exposed to that continuously, it sort of made me realize, oh, I do actually think I can edit now. And it's really helped to influence some of the projects that I've been doing and stuff. And I just enjoy being on set with the actors and, you know, watching a scene that I've been timing come to life as well, and seeing it from the page and being there in the thick of it. Because as a script supervisor, you're exposed to everything. You're there, you're on the floor, you're in there with the director, you're also listening to all the grown-ups around the monitor. So they're like, Carley, shh, close your ears. So you get to hear everything, really. So you kind of, it's a brilliant role, and I am really grateful, and I do really enjoy it.
For anyone who was thinking about moving into production and wanting to be a script supervisor, what kind of advice or caveats would you maybe give to those people?
Well, the first thing would be just be a nice person, because ultimately it doesn't matter how talented you are or how, you know, good in production you are, you just have to be a nice person. And people, well, they have to work with you for 12 hours a day, so they need to want to work with you. So if you can be nice and, you know, just be good, but obviously be nice as well, that's the most important thing for me. And then secondly, I would say don't be late, and, you know, don't ring in sick and say, oh, I can't be there because of XYZ or whatever. Like, literally, I've had some awful situations in my career and life, and I've had so much thrown at me beyond, like, in my personal life, but then I just keep turning up. And I think that's the most important thing, having resilience, and just, no matter how many times you get knocked down, just keep getting back up. And I know obviously your mental health is the most important thing, but yeah, you just need to keep going, really, and just not let any external factors break you, which I've had a lot of. But yeah, just keep going, keep showing up, keep turning up, and just don't give up.
I love it. All great advice.
Yeah, because I think like obviously people think, oh, I want to be a script supervisor, but then they don't understand how hard it is to actually just be a freelancer as well, because you have to manage your money right, you have to have an accountant, you have to be able to travel, be able to drive, be able to get to jobs, understand how to read a call sheet and all of those things that I feel a lot of people think, oh, well, I'll just go and be a script supervisor because it's going to help me. But I really feel in order to be a good script supervisor, you have to have the foundations of being a freelancer. And I think that you have to go and be a runner or go and be something, a trainee in any department, so you can understand how all of the other stuff works. Otherwise, you're just being set up to fail, essentially, because you need all of those components that make a good freelancer as well as making a good script supervisor.
I love that. And I'm definitely going to steal it. Foundations of a freelancer. And I think it's so relevant in this industry as a whole, because you are always freelancing. And if you don't figure that part of it out, the rest doesn't matter.
Exactly. And, you know, I do get a lot of emails from people. I really want to be a writer. And so I think I want to be a script supervisor. And, you know, it's not, you're not going to become a writer by being a script supervisor. You're going to become a writer by writing. So if you want to be a writer, then go and write, because this job is not writing in any capacity. So I always like, when people reach out to me and say that, I always go back and say, actually, I'm a part of the camera department and I'm actually, you know, in charge of the continuity, which is, yes, you're exposed to scripts, but you're not a writer. And I think there's a lot of confusion in that. So I think it's important for people to have experience in other departments rather than going and doing a course and then thinking, well, I'm qualified as a script supervisor now, then I can come on set. You have to shadow other script supervisors. You have to be a trainee for a little while, be an assistant, whilst also having some understanding within the industry, whether that's as a runner, production assistant, whatever. I just think those foundations to be able to prepare you to work under that intense pressure and that responsibility, as well as having all the other stuff that will obviously keep you going.
Love it. All of it. As I said at the beginning, you wear multiple hats, and your company, True Moon Pictures,
Yeah.
you produce and you write, and I believe direct also. Being on set as a script supervisor must, over the years, have been so incredibly valuable. As you said, you kind of get to sit there, you work with brilliant directors, you're getting to read so many scripts and feed into them in different ways. I'm probably answering this question before I ask it, but I was going to say, how has script supervising prepared you for the other work like producing and writing and directing that you are also doing and embarking on?
Yeah, so when I was at uni, I was always the producer on all of my projects. And then when I graduated from uni, I was doing short films and stuff on my own with other filmmakers, and then really started concentrating on my writing and writing loads of different TV show ideas and films and stuff. And I was like, right, okay, I'm going to get myself an agent. So I wrote loads of different things until I could get myself an agent, and I did. And then I kind of realized that I loved the producing, and that was exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to produce my own stuff. I don't always necessarily want to write my own stuff. I like to work with other writers as well. And I think that in that collaborativeness from being on set with others and other filmmakers and just working with other like-minded people who just want to create and be creative, I was able to sort of like use my interpersonal skills from that and all of my contacts and stuff to be able to transfer that over to doing my own stuff. And I was inspired by a few producers who I really admire and I still admire to this day, and sort of seeing their trajectory and what they were doing and how that me taking influence from them was going to help me to get where I want to be. And I just realized I'm going to have to do a lot more externally outside of script supervising to enable me to get there. So I'm kind of not in like a huge rush to, get rid of script supervising and just move into doing my own stuff, because independent producing doesn't really pay the bills. But I am enjoying producing my own films alongside doing what I'm doing. So I think that in, being exposed to so many scripts and seeing so many wonderful directors doing their thing, I've sort of began to internalize their styles and how they do things, and using all of my experiences as a script supervisor to help me to progress to the next level. And I think that script supervising is a really good role to do that. So yeah, I think it's been an integral part of, my journey, and I'm not willing to give it up yet.
It's also really hard, and it comes down to what you were saying, I think, about being a freelancer, that when you are good at your job and you have work and you're getting hired, freelancers need to pay the bills. That has to be one of our priorities. So anything else kind of has to be some semblance of a side hustle to build something new. As you do kind of build your company and build your slate, as you look at the industry and the marketplace, what are the challenges that you're maybe encountering or seeing, and what are you trying to overcome?
Good question. So the challenges that I'm finding are that there aren't many opportunities for working class writers to get their break and break in. I feel like it's a very closed shop in the writing world, and there are, whether you sort of already have to be in with certain people, certain production companies, and I've really struggled with that in trying to sort of write and get my writing out there. So I just came to the resolution that if I want to write my own stuff, which I do, and the whole goal is because I want to create and I want to write, then the quickest way for me to show what I can do is by producing my own stuff. So I kind of put myself on loads of different producing courses with the BFI, and with I'm a BAFTA Connect Producer now and stuff. And yeah, I'm constantly learning outside of being on set as well. Like, I must work sometimes 7 days a week, and I know it's really bad, but I do. I'm always working, and I'm always on an evening having meetings and Zooms with other directors and things. And it was just kind of in the experimenting with my writing that I realized, well, actually, when I'm directing, I kind of know what I'm doing because I've seen so many people do it. And when I'm producing, I kind of know what I'm doing because I've seen so many people do it. So I've kind of been able to take my experiences from being a script supervisor and incorporate that into making my own films. And I'm just really having a good time. And I'm not gonna, pigeonhole myself to one thing, because I think with women are, we're conditioned to be told that you can only be one thing. And we're constantly punished for being women. But actually, why can't I do them other things that everybody else is doing? So I'm kind of fighting against something I feel sometimes. You can't write and direct and produce as well as being on set, and that's something that I really struggle with, because people, I feel, can change their view on you if you want more. And why shouldn't I want more? I've dedicated so much of my life to it. Like, why shouldn't I want to write my own stuff, and why shouldn't I want to create? So I think that's a huge part of the industry that has always been there. People thinking that you should just be a certain thing, when actually you can be so much more if you want to be.
Totally. And there's no linear paths really in this game. And when you look at a lot of maybe successful people and you think, oh, I would love to do something that way. When you dig into it, they've kind of, blazed their own trail. And
Yeah.
you can't blaze the same trail as them, but you need to embody that spirit, which I think is what you're talking about there. You're going, fuck it, I'm going to do it my way.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Because I think there's no one path. And if it's working for me and I'm enjoying the process, then that's all that really matters.
Yeah. You mentioned, you're not going to kind of pigeonhole yourself by trying to just do one thing, but you also mentioned opportunities for working class writers in the industry. And I've read one or two interviews with you, and you speak, I think, passionately about working class voices and finding a way for working class voices to break in, even though still very heavily underrepresented. How important is that for you, or how does class shape the stories you want to tell?
So I kind of always wanted to tell working class stories, but then in sort of collaborating with others who are not always working class, and class isn't a massive thing for me. It's more about the people who are trying to break in. So I think working class people are struggling at the minute to get opportunities because it is an industry where a lot of people sort of rely on parents or rely on, savings or being able to have access to certain parts of the industry that when you come from a working class background, you don't have. And I think that in, ensuring that I'm being the voice of that world is really important to me. And as you say, the statistics of working class people who are getting opportunities in film and TV at the minute are the lowest they've been in the last 15 years. So I kind of feel like if I just don't say anything about it, then, I'm just standing by whilst the problem is still arising. So if I can help any other working class children or working class people get their first break or get their foot in the door, then that's sort of what I'm really passionate about.
Brilliant. I love it. Yeah, you come from those backgrounds, these opportunities just don't exist. You have to work a bit harder.
Yeah. And I do feel that as as I'm making my own stuff, trying to raise the money, trying to crowdfund, trying to access funding from different places and things, you can see where if a privileged person was setting out to make their own films and they had access to various pots of money, then it would be a lot easier for them, particularly if they weren't also having to work in the industry like I do to pay the bills and to keep a roof over my family's head. Then I can see why, when you're watching the Oscars, a lot of these Oscar-winning directors and producers have been to private schools, and how it's a lot easier for them to get by in the industry, and why it's so harder for people who come from working class backgrounds to just get on. So I'm a big advocate of that, and I feel like this is the only way for me, because I can't afford to not work on set as a script supervisor, but then I can't afford to not make my own stuff, because then what's the point? Like, I've set out on this journey and I want to be creative, and I'm not going to stop until I am. So this is just how my life is, and I'm enjoying it, and also feel really grateful and blessed, and I want to help other people to have that experience as well, who come from backgrounds similar as I.
Right. Let's go back to writing.
Yeah.
When you're working on your own stuff now, do you have processes or guidelines? Do you write beat sheets, treatments? How do you break story?
So one thing I've always been really privileged of is that ideas come to me really quickly in terms of what it is and how we would shoot it and what that would look like. And I think sometimes because I'm hearing what's coming up next, what's being commissioned and things, I kind of understand what audiences are wanting right now. So I come up with ideas, and then if I'm writing alone, which I do enjoy writing alone on my own stuff, but I enjoy even more writing with other writers, because you can just I enjoy unlocking things in other people as well. So at the moment, I'm writing a feature film with another writer, and because I'm always on the road and stuff, and sometimes I'm on the road for like 5 hours, we'll chat on the phone when I'm driving, and it's in these chats that I'm just driving and my mind goes somewhere and I'm unlocking things, and they're telling me, and I know I shouldn't be on the phone, but yeah, when we chat and stuff, like we get some good stuff. And then on an evening and things after I finish work, I'll do some writing sessions. And I just think, yeah, it's just a case of understanding what it is that we're trying to say, and then using the beat sheets and stuff to sort of plot out those key moments of what we need, and then just building on it from there. And then once we've got a first draft, then we can sort of start fleshing it out and passing it backwards and forwards. But with regards to my own stuff that I've been writing, I'm very I'm very good at just like starting to write and see what comes when I do, and then writing and writing and writing, and then going back and unpicking what's not working and what page things need to change on and stuff. So it's been I've kind of got different processes for different things that I'm doing. If I'm writing with people on shorts, or if I'm writing my own stuff, my own TV shows or my own features, then I will have a process that works for me, which is usually just writing and then going back and fixing it. But when I'm writing with others, we sort of try and do it strategically so we're not getting messed up.
Do you have any difficulty boxing off script supervisor Carley, who looks at scripts in a way where you're being really logical, like you mentioned about like they don't have the time to go from there to there between scenes and all this kind of stuff, and then just go for broke, create, and worry about that after?
Yeah.
Do they meet in the middle, or how do you handle that? Switching your brain, I suppose.
Yeah, it is completely different, but they kind of help one another. So, in me knowing how things are gonna become from the script to the screen, and having that experiences in the producing side of it, I kind of now know what the director and the producer are going to need in my script supervising. So I'm not so anal and giving so many notes and pulling people up on things, because actually I know how that process works from their eyes as well. So I feel like in having the experience of doing both now, it sort of works hand in hand in both.
And you were a script editor on Boiling Point, the TV series. I know you had worked with Phil Barantini previously on Malpractice as well, I think.
Yeah.
How did it come to be that you were script editing on that series while also script supervising, and what was that like?
So because of schedule changes on the day, Phil gave me an opportunity to do a little bit of script editing on one of the episodes, which was amazing experience for me, because I was then able to show Phil and everyone sort of what I could do, and and just threw myself in at it in order to be able to help with the schedule and all the changes that were happening at the time. And because we were sort of working across different episodes, it was the actual script editor was in London, and I was just sort of brought in. I was still script supervisor, but I was just brought in for that just particular time because of the schedule, and I absolutely loved it, and I loved working with Phil. Phil is so amazing, and he's taken me on so many jobs now, and I'm just really grateful, and I would do anything for him to help him. So it was a brilliant experience, and seeing how how I could really push myself in terms of what I needed to deliver in that short period of time was something that kind of made me realize that I want more than script supervising. And I think I will get it one day, but I'm just enjoying the process at the same time.
Were there any big lessons that you learned in being kind of thrown into that role and having to think really quickly and act? Were there any big takeaways or any big kind of learning revelations you had?
I think in me just always being prepared for something amazing to happen and always being able to take risks in my job, I think having that in the back of my head will always propel me further. So recently I was on a job and I got asked to do a major motion picture, which I can't mention at the moment. But then I sort of just thought to myself, just ask the question, because if you don't ask, the answer will always be no. And if you don't go and do it, then how will you feel when you're always kicking yourself that you didn't ask? So I think if you ask, then, you know, what's the worst that can happen? People can say, no, I don't think you're ready, or no, I don't think that's the right thing. But if you never ask, then you're never going to get. And I always live by that. But at the same time, remembering how loyal I am, because in this business, there is very little loyalty and people will drop people to jump onto other things very quickly. And always having loyalty at the heart of everything you do, but then also understanding that you do need to take risks in order to get to the next stage. I think having an equal part of both is something that's really important in moving constantly, trying to level up. So I think it's a little bit of risk taken, but remembering to stay grounded and being loyal and not upsetting other people. I think that's something that I've been learning over the last few opportunities that I've had.
Okay. What has been the best career advice you've been given?
The best career advice that I've ever been given is probably just to be yourself and just enjoy the job, enjoy what you're doing. And if you don't enjoy it, then what is the point? I was really grateful of being in production when I was in the production office, but long term, I think I've had more fun on set and I've learned more by being on set. So yes, obviously I'm producing my own stuff alongside, and I do feel like the end goal for me is to be a producer. I do obviously want to direct as well. And I'm hoping that I can direct some things to try and, work towards being a producer later down the line. But I feel like the best advice that I could or have ever received is probably just to enjoy the process and enjoy what you're doing and have a good time as well as working hard.
I know it's so simple and in a sense that one, be yourself, but I often think there's so many people who could potentially come in and do some of the jobs we're doing. So the only real currency we have is who we are and whether we're good people to be around. And enjoy the process also, I think, incredibly important, because in this industry, the process can take a long time. So you need to be able to enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if the end goal for you is to be more creative, like it is for me, then I think that putting yourself in a role that is on set, like script supervising or similar, whilst doing those things that you want to do alongside, it's a really good place rather than being in a office that is not in that world, where you're not being exposed to that and you're sat in an office-based world that isn't in TV and film and you're wishing that you were doing that. Then I feel like you're in a much stronger position if you're doing something you enjoy as well, because you'll get your best work.
Definitely. What about worst career advice?
The worst career advice that I've probably been given is, yeah, I need to be realistic.
Dream big.
Yeah, exactly. Dream big. Why not? Why shouldn't it be me? And why shouldn't I have big dreams? And why can't other people have big dreams? And why do I have to be realistic? Because at the end of the day, all of those people who are creating and making things and doing well and doing what they want to do, they all started off like me and like others with a dream, and they just didn't give up.
Yeah. You mentioned, obviously, you studied drama and film and TV media, but have there been any resources or books, or maybe it's the Titanic behind the scenes, resources that have really impacted you or that you go back to that you would recommend for people thinking about moving into the industry?
I think the thing that I always go back to is checking in on myself and checking in if I'm doing everything that I should be doing. And reflection is a really important thing. So reflecting on where you are, what you've been up to for the last however many years, and sort of seeing what you need to do to get you where you want to be. I think reflection is a really important part of the journey, and just, yeah, checking in with yourself to see if there's anything else that you can be doing. I feel like there's a lot of stuff within the BFI that is really important. I feel like as a filmmaker, which obviously film is what I'm most passionate about, I feel like the BFI are a fantastic resource for people wanting to do various things, because the courses that they do and they provide and the opportunities they provide, particularly they get the whole working class thing. They are actively doing more to help working class writers, directors, producers, and they really push that. And I think as, you know, an organization that leads in film, they are an integral part of the industry. And I think that their work is something that is absolutely needed in film and TV. So I would always tell people to reach out to their local film hub and see what's happening, going to networking events and just trying to do some of their courses, to even if you're just doing the courses to just meet other like-minded creatives in your area, or, you know, networking. It's a brilliant place to start off if you're sort of at uni and wanting to make the next step.
I love what you mentioned about reflection and checking in. I actually have only scheduled, I've started to do it in advance, where I think the next one is in September, just like a check-in day to go, okay, what were the goals I had set, or what am I working on, and as a progress, am I doing things wrong? What isn't working? What is? How can I do more of what is? I think it's a great tool that people maybe don't think of using as often.
Definitely. I think a lot of people are searching for others to help them or others to get them where they want to be. And one thing that I've learned is that the only thing or only person that I need to get me where I need to be is me. And as long as I can work that out, then I'll get there, because no one else is going to come and save you. So you have to be the person that saves you. And I'm constantly checking in with myself every day, and not beating myself up if I've ever made mistakes or if things have gone wrong, which sometimes they have. You know, not every job that you work on, you do your best performance, because you might have things going on in your life that, you know, dictates your performance on a job. It's not all sunshine and roses, but it's about learning from the experience. Okay, what did I do? What was that? How can I get through the next bit to be able to ensure that that doesn't happen again? And I think if you have that mindset where you're the one that is driving that, then, you know, you're in a safe pair of hands.
Yeah. So when you spoke about the BFI and the resource that they are and opportunities that they run. I know you are a BAFTA Connect producer, you're BFI Network Creative Producer Lab participant 2022. Sometimes those networking type events can be daunting. You can occasionally go and feel like you walk away with nothing if you haven't met people you were hoping to meet, let's say. I was wondering, in those situations, now you did mention, I'm conscious that you can get where the draft can't go, so I'm assuming you're good in those spaces, but have you found those events to be truly beneficial for you and, you know, pushing your career and yourself forward into the next stage of your career?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I did the Creative Producer Lab, it was completely career changing. And I would advise anybody wanting to produce to go and do it, because it's just, yeah, it's like a sort of 4-month long lab. She might be 5. But you sort of meet regularly. You're in this sort of cohort of people. I'm in a WhatsApp chat now with all of the regional producers in the whole of the UK who've ever done this course, and they're all out in the industry now creating stuff, and we're sharing constant resources, constant opportunities with each other, asking each other questions. And it was in obviously meeting these other producers that I realized that, you know, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to be doing. Like, independent film is something I'm really passionate about, and I'm not gonna stop until I do it. And then I've been collaborating with others on there. There's a couple of producers who I've been working with for the last sort of 2 years, just developing our own stuff, shooting our own stuff. And it's within that network that it's made me realize and made me believe that I can do it. And the contacts that I've made have been invaluable. You know, working with Barrington, who has just produced a responder. He's such an amazing sort of mentor to have, to be able to ask questions, and he supports all of the up and coming producers and filmmakers who do anything with the BFI. It's just, yeah, an amazing place to be, and I would encourage anybody to attend any of those labs. They do a script lab, and they also do a directing lab as well. And yeah, even just, you know, writing and producing, submitting my own projects to the BFI. Over the course of the last 2 years, one of my projects, which was a feature film, I applied for the Early Development Fund, and I got down from 900 applicants to the last 25. And then another project of mine, which we just finished, and it's in post. We didn't get the BFI funding, but we did get down from 157 down to the last final 13. And even just in those sort of being able to achieve that, it kind of just like gave me the hope that, well, actually what I'm working on is good, because they've backed me here. Because even though I didn't get the funding, they're still telling me that out of all of those other projects that what I'm doing is I'm on the right track. So even taking something from that has just helped me to create some of my best work. And the film that I've just finished producing alongside my one of my producing partners, Sarah, and Ian Curtis, who's the director, that film is amazing. And I'm not just saying it, but it is really going to win some awards, and it's going to be ready. It's off to Aesthetica next week. And I think, you know, I would never have believed that I could have been that big of a producer producing something with production values like that, unless I'd sort of had the confidence that's been instilled in me from doing initiatives like the BFI Creative Producer Lab. So I'm very, very grateful of it. And when I send them this podcast, they're going to be over the moon that I've plugged them. But yeah, everything I'm saying is absolutely true. And yeah, I wouldn't lie about it, because it, you know, it has been career changing for me.
Amazing. I love to hear it. Not all labs are made equal, and it's excellent when you hear people attending ones that have the impact that they're intended to have. So thank you for sharing. You mentioned your new short. Can you talk about anything else that you have coming up, or what's next for Carley Armstrong?
So I have 3 shorts that are currently in post-production. One short is called Non Compos Mentis, which is a film about dementia, and we have our dementia choir who have recorded the original soundtrack, and me and my producing partner Joshua Oliver, we've been working on that for quite some time now, and it's a co-production with a film school in London, who basically what we did was we have developed a story with the students, who the students have written it, and we have worked with them. Then we've put industry people in, first ADs and other HODs in those HOD roles, and then we've given the students the opportunity to get direct work with these HODs whilst obviously creating a film that then we can then promote, and bridging that gap between students making student films and then going into the industry to working on the next level of production. And that film is going to be coming out very soon. It's already been submitted to London Film Festival, and we're actually going to have our dementia choir record they're live singing the soundtrack when we do the screening, which will be really nice because they're amazing. And Vicky McClure has been really supportive of that, and sharing our poster, and it's starring Robert Bathurst and Tracy Burnett, who just have the most amazing performance in the film, and I'm really excited to share it. And I was quite lucky that I actually directed that film, and I had a co-director with me who also was the girl whose story it was, and we were sort of working together in a collaborative way, and I was teaching her, and it was just a lovely experience. And that's one project that's coming, and I'm really excited about that. And then the next one that is coming is Hide, which is a film that I produced alongside Sarah Van Paris and Ian Curtis, who is the writer-director. And we've been working on that film since last March, and it's now finally in the post-production, almost. The film's locked now, and it's just being graded and stuff. So that's going to be coming, and it's starring Niamh Blackshaw, Lisa Davina Phillip, and that's going to be on its festival run very, very soon. And then I have some other things floating around, sort of working on the next project that we're going to be doing. I'm hoping to do another 2 shorts before the end of the year that I've been writing. And one of them is a proof of concept for a feature, and the other one is just the opportunity for me to write dialogue and direct dialogue, and just playing around really with my words and actors, and just I think that's the next thing that I want to do, writing something that's very dialogue driven, and that I can sort of showcase what I can write. And then I'm literally the busiest person you'll ever meet. Then I have a feature film that I'm developing with someone, and we're writing that together, and then various other writing projects of my own that I'm writing. So it's exciting, and I'm looking forward to the next thing. I also have a film that I've submitted me and Sarah have submitted into the BFI that I've written, that I'm hoping to direct if we get chosen. So there's a lot of things happening, bubbling away in the background, and I'm looking forward to the next thing.
Amazing. All sounds great. And I love non compos mentis, the whole idea there, and working with the school and what it's about, and the dementia choir. Amazing. Can't wait to see it. Very much looking forward to seeing all of them and hearing more about how they are going on the festival circuit and how the bigger projects start to move along. I want to say thank you so very much for coming on and talking and sharing about script supervising and what that job is, and providing that information to people, and talking about your career and yourself. I've really enjoyed it, so thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it, and hopefully everything I've said resonates with some people. And yeah, anytime you want me to do anything, just let me know, and I'll be happy to help you.
And that's a wrap on Carley Armstrong. Thank you for listening to the Filmmaker's Playbook. If you're enjoying the show, please share it with a friend and follow and rate us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you have feedback, questions, or topics you'd like me to cover on the show, please put them in the comments section on our Instagram page at the Filmmaker's Playbook Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at Jason Branagan Director. You can follow Carley on Instagram at scripty.life. Links and social media handles are in the show notes. Join me next week when I talk to Academy Award and Emmy Award winning director, writer and producer, and author of the brilliant Hits, Flops and Other Illusions, Ed Zwick.